My mother doesn't like little girls, writes Sinead O'Connor, in what turns out to be a vast understatement. Her mother purportedly locked her in a room for days at a time, beat her mercilessly, and once intentionally drove with Sinead O'Connor in the vehicle into oncoming traffic. Eventually, her mother would die in a car crash. The accompanied childhood photos tell the story. There's one of tiny Sinead O'Connor in her communion dress, already haunted, had that haunted face. And eventually, she'd become an angry person. Her rage at her mother displaced onto everybody else. She said she couldn't admit that she was pissed off at her mother, so she took it out on the world. And she burned nearly every bridge that she crossed. After Saturday Night Live in 1991 or 1992, you had this Bob Dylan concert. And the Bob Dylan concert, this is right after she ripped up the picture of the Pope. This is when she's going to feel the hatred of America, because immediately everybody's like just poo-pooing what she did and, tisk tisk. But it really affected her because it was almost, she said the way she put it was, that it was open season on a crazy bitch. It was open season on a crazy bitch. So the Bob Dylan tribute concert, when she came out, the crowd booed her. She thought it had something to do with her outfit. But that went from, she was the number one star in America, number one star in the world. She was the Marilyn Monroe. She was the Britney Spears. She was number one, Nothing Compares to You, I think, hit number one or some shit. Her album was, she went to the Grammys, or she was supposed to go. She boycotted the Grammys, but she was nominated for, greatest artist or some shit. So she went from being number one, ripped up the Pope, but she actually in her soul felt better because she wasn't ready to beat Marilyn Monroe. She's the one, she's the rebel. She's the one that doesn't fit. She's the black sheep. She's the oddball out. So when she was number one, she's like, she can't do Marilyn Monroe. She can't. Marilyn Monroe, she doesn't want to be a pop star. She's a punk. And as a punk, she wanted to rebel. So she sang her pretty songs, and then at the end, she ripped that picture up. Joe Pesci is going to threaten to smack her in an SNL monologue. Isn't that something? You could rip the Pope up, and that's, the worst thing ever. But if you're Joe Pesci and you say, well, we should just smack Sinead O'Connor for ripping up a photo, that's okay. Threatening violence. You know what she didn't do? She didn't threaten the violence. Actually, she ripped up the Pope and said, we got to fight the real enemies. And the Pope was a huge symbol for her abusive mother. So maybe it was the church. Maybe it was her mother that she was talking about. Joe Pesci didn't ask questions. He was just going to smack her because he didn't like what she had to say. And we're supposed to be Americans. Free speech Americans. And we're all fucking, oh my God, he ripped up a picture. She's Irish, right? Isn't that all they do is just rip up pictures all day long? Just pissed off motherfuckers getting drunk and ripping up pictures. That's how I think of Ireland, and a bunch of leprechauns speaking Gaelic. Madonna mocked her in a gently condescending fashion, plays scowling, ripping up a photograph of Joey Buttafuoco. Frank Sinatra said he wanted to hit Sinead O'Connor too. He said if she was a man, they would have fought or some shit. And Frank had problems with her mother. She would make her mother cry tears, but then she says that she would rather just put strong words on paper and not break her mother's heart. But that's the contradiction, isn't it? She's tender and sensitive, and of course she means well, right? Why would this pure good person be so terrible? And actually she confronted her mother about all the abuse, and her mother was taken aback that she forgave her for all of it. A text from January 6th was left out altogether. I need my mother as an example which I could follow. This is Aunt Frank. I want to be able to respect her, and I thought my mother is an example to me in most things, but she's precisely the kind of example that I do not want to follow. And that is pretty harsh criticism. Woman is chaos, says Jordan Peterson. So, woman, you are chaos. That actually makes more sense with Sinead O'Connor. She was going to be what? Your pinup girl? She was going to be your Betty Garbo or Garbable or Clark Gable. Woman is chaos. So her being number one in what she's going to be your new Marilyn Monroe. She's not going to be Marilyn Monroe. She's going to be Marilyn Monroe with the black eye. She's going to be your Norma Jean. She's going to be your bad boy. Sinead O'Connor said she felt right after she ripped up the picture of the Pope. She got all that shit, but she never felt bad about it because that was a perfect moment for her. And it wasn't just about the Catholic Church. It was actually had very little to do with the Catholic Church. It had to do with her mother abusing her, and she had that exact same picture up on her wall. So it wasn't like a random picture of the Pope. It was the picture that her mother actually kept up in her house, pretending she was good and pious and holy and holier than thou and can't be. But really, she was one of the worst people ever. She had a run-in with Prince, the artist. This is how doves cry. He lived in a house with foil-covered windows. Apparently, he doesn't like light. His brother, Duan, and a cowed servant, said delighted in casual cruelty, and he yelled at her for cursing. Sinead O'Connor was initially unintimidated, but then began to feel trapped in Prince's isolated house. And she said she wished to leave and then was told that she is not allowed to leave. So she just ran from his car in fear. So Sinead O'Connor studied theology, converted to Islam, married, divorced 4 times, identified as asexual, volunteered in a veterans hospital. She smoked marijuana. In June 1993, Sinead O'Connor wrote a public letter in the Irish Times which asked people to stop hurting her. She said this: if only I can get off if I could fight off the voices. Oh, if only I could fight off the voices of my parents' words in my head and gather a sense of self-esteem, then I'll be able to really sing. Our family is very messed up, Sinead O'Connor said. We can't communicate with each other. We are all in agony. I, for one, am in agony. She said she was unafraid. No, someone else said that she's unafraid to demand justice for victims of clerical sexual abuse, challenge the patriarchy, and speak truth to power, even when her voice was a lonely one and it cost her dearly to do so. In Ireland, of Mrs. Sinead O'Connor's youth, politics were dominated by the Catholic Church for decades. Priests at the parish level saw part of their role as protecting the community from sexual promiscuity, homosexuality, and unwed mothers and their children. To do so, they used an unwritten extra legal power to send women accused of such sins to reform schools, workhouses, other facilities run by Catholic orders. And she went to one of these facilities. It was a world with which Sinead O'Connor was intimately familiar with, and her experiences in one such facility as a teenager after enduring years of abuse from her mother, that set the stage for the moment. On Saturday Night Live, she had already seen what happened to spirited girls and gay kids in Ireland, and to her it wasn't an abstraction, it was her biography, said Mr. O'Doherty, who grew up gay in rural Ireland and moved to the United States in 1996. She came out of an era of silence that swallowed spirited girls and gay boys, that consumed Irish life that you could vanish into, and she nearly did. She wrote a letter to Miley Cyrus, and it was in the spirit of motherliness and with love. And so basically all she is saying is that you're more than just your sexuality. There's more to you than just your sexuality. And of course that's true. It's weird that she has to fight for it so much. But I wonder if it's because of the woman's identity, what man expects out of woman, both of those things. I'm extremely concerned for you that those around you have led you to believe or encourage you in your own belief that it is any way cool to be naked and licking sledgehammers in your videos. Damn, she's licking that sledgehammer. She did do twerking, right? She was Disney, and then she brought twerking. It is, in fact, the case that you will obscure your talent by allowing yourself to be pimped, whether it's the music business or yourself doing the pimping. Now, I would say that Sinead O'Connor seemed like she was kind of butch, but she was actually married 4 times, so she wasn't lesbian, she wasn't gay. So she was married 4 times. She had several children, and it's just interesting how she's explaining to her. Basically, she's saying that don't be pimped. The music business is going to try to pimp you. Don't pimp yourself out. You are more than just your, what you do for men. You are more than just. Nothing but harm will come in the long run from allowing yourself to be exploited, and it is absolutely not in any way an empowerment of yourself or any other young women for you to send across the message that you're to be valued even by you more than your sexual appeal, than your obvious talent. Yes, it is about her talent. Sexual appeal is a part of it, but also the voice to be able to sing. And actually, Sinead O'Connor was beautiful. Sinead O'Connor was, beautiful. She was probably could have been a good Marilyn Monroe if she, if that was her thing, but that wasn't her thing. And actually, she came across singing in order to soothe her abusive mother, to soothe the devil, to get the devil to go to sleep. Isn't there something about a harp? Wasn't that the harp? Wasn't that like the beans? What was that with the three beans? James and the giant peach? No, it was the beanstalk. Jack and the beanstalk. I think he played something. I don't know. I have to check out later. But I think he played a harp to make sure the giant, the beast, the devil went to sleep too. So that was through desperation. The music business doesn't give a shit about you or any of us. They will prostitute you for all you're worth, cleverly make you think it's what you wanted, and then when you end up in rehab as a result of being prostituted, they will be sunning themselves on their yachts in Antigua, which they bought by selling your body, and you will find yourself very alone. Whether we like it or not, us females in the industry are role models, and as such, we have to be extremely careful with what messages we send out to other women. The message you keep sending is that it's somehow cool to be prostituted. It's not so cool, Miley. It's dangerous. Women are to be valued for so much more than their sexuality. At the time, Miley Cyrus didn't react well to the letter comparing O'Connor to the trouble star Amanda Bynes. Amanda Bynes had some issues, seemingly crazy issues. Kind of like Britney Spears. Just seeming, I don't know how the extent of Amanda Bynes. Some of it, I don't know. Who has had several mental health episodes on social media. Miley Cyrus also reshared pictures of the star in 1992 when she tore up a photo of Pope John Paul II on the U.S. TV show Saturday Night Live, sparking a ferocious backlash. Whereas, how come we don't have, in Living Color and Mad TV? In Living Color and Mad TV, we're just as good, if not better than fucking Saturday Night Dead. Sparking a ferocious backlash, O'Connor then penned several follow-up letters and even threatened legal action against Miley Cyrus. So that kind of went south. Now on her mother and on the abuse. So you have Sinead O'Connor said that her mother ran a torture chamber. It was a torture chamber. She was a person who would take delight. She was a sadist. She would smile when she hurt you. Sinead O'Connor said that the abuse started when she was a very young child. My earliest memory, she's telling me I shouldn't have been born. One of my earliest memories, Barbara Williams is abusing me. She didn't want me. She didn't want girls. She wanted me to be a boy. The Fire on Babylon singer said she dresses me like a boy. She chops my hair off. Whenever she beats me, which is daily, I'm naked. She makes me take my clothes off, and I have to lie on the floor. On my back, I have to open up my arms and legs, and I have to let her attack my abdomen. She wants to burst my womb. She wants to destroy my reproductive system. She wants to stop me from being a female. Nothing. Noting that her mother would simply invent reasons to beat her. Yeah, just make up reasons. Well, it's your elbows. No, it's about you existing. Sinead tried to understand where the desire to hurt came from. Sinead O'Connor said her mother was not well. She was really very, very, very not well. I would say she was possessed, although I'm not for sure I believe in such things. So either she was just a sadist and a pedophile, or she was possessed by the devil. When she was 8, Sinead's parents divorced. And she says her mother got upset that the kids were sad when their father left. As punishment, she made them live outside in the shed for several months. The abuse finally stopped when Sinead got older. Even though I don't believe in that Q stuff, Epstein did have a client list. You have war criminals getting away with major crimes, Epstein's client list getting away with major crimes, and then you want to get mad at people in that damn video or whatever? The people in the video is right. There's child abuse all over the place. It's normalized. I very much feel the odd person out when I say, are you opposed to racism? Are you opposed to evil? Are you opposed to child abuse? You got to be committed to goodness, and you got to have good thoughts. If you're committed to goodness, the abuse finally stopped when Sinead got older. Of course, now she could whoop her back. I got to be the same size as her, and then she stopped hitting me. Interesting. Well, shit, if I beat this big woman up, I might get hit myself. So she's picking on a little girl, picking on an innocent little girl. We developed a very good relationship between the age of 14 and the age of 16 and a half. We had a great relationship because she was blown away that I forgave her. You had Philip and Nancy Garrido. Philip and Nancy Garrido, they had kidnapped J.C. Dugard. J.C. Dugard is going to get raped in the backyard by Philip Garrido for like 10 years, has 2 kids. And he was a convicted child molester who was being monitored by the state. But Nancy Garrido is such a dedicated wife. She didn't say nothing. She didn't speak out of line. Philip even goes to jail for 2 weeks. And Nancy Garrido could have just told J.C. Dugard to run off, but that's not what Nancy Garrido did. Nancy Garrido was the one that would go and take the pictures of the kids. So Philip had his Nancy Garrido. Epstein has his Ghislaine Maxwell. Andrew Tate says that you need a bottom bitch in order to convince the other women to get in line and to get on camera and to start working. You got to have that bottom bitch in order to convince the other women. They're not going to listen to you as a man, but they'll listen to a bottom bitch, which is, I don't even know what to think about that. There's some women that believe anything and all things that all women say. So, but then there's some women that just lie compulsively. So which is it? I think it's in between. Saying that just because you got a bottom bitch, you'll do what Andrew Tate says as long as a woman tells you to do it. If a woman tells you to do it, then you're all on board. If Andrew Tate, what's that about? So Andrew Tate just kind of got a little smarter. I guess he's thinking 3D chess. But women believe other women just prima facie, like she's not able to lie or manipulate or hurt others. And I think it's in between, right? You believe the honesty. You don't believe the lies. Believe the truth. Don't believe the lies. She revealed that she did confront her mother about the abuse, but she never confessed to it. One day I did ask her, why did you do what you did to us? This is Sinead O'Connor confronting her mother, and her mother said, I never did anything. What are you talking about? I remember asking my abusers about the 1 million crimes. Huh? I never did anything. I don't remember. No violence. No violence ever happened, ever. Okay, I was the one being abused. I was the one being abused, so how could you just lie, right? Like, I'm supposed to ignore all my experiences? I'm supposed to pretend that all that didn't happen every fucking day? 1 million motherfucking... I was furious with her, raging. I didn't talk to her for about 9 months. The next thing I hear, she's dead in a car crash. And then she's going to say that she was mad about the abuse, but she was really mad and sad about her dying. So I think Sinead O'Connor just wanted a good mother. She just wanted her mother to be good. Wanted her mother to give a damn, to not be a piece of shit. Oh, I forgave you. No, all that bad shit that you did, I forgive you. And she did some bad shit too, which we'll get to. But she forgave her. And then she's sad that her mother was gone and her mother was terrible. Sinead said that the loss of their mother left the entire family with unfinished business, adding nothing could ever be fixed again and will never be fixed again. It was very kind of God to take her. Her life was hell. You wouldn't want to be her. I was relieved for her, relieved for me, but devastated at the loss of her. Wow. She was my best friend. That's so gorgeous. So good people should definitely be on the lookout for bad people, because good people will put their goodness on other people. There's no way her mother could say any of that shit, but that's what she believes. And so she was like, you know what? She was complicated. She had her faults. But ultimately, it was Sinead's best friend. The singer and outspoken activist also revealed that it was her mother's hatred for her sister's looks that inspired her to keep her hair short. A look she has maintained throughout most of her career. When I had long hair, Sinead O'Connor's mother would introduce the 2 daughters, one as the pretty daughter and the other one as the ugly daughter. She was the ugly daughter, and that's why she chopped her hair off. She didn't want to be pretty. She was going to go ahead and accept being the ugly daughter. She said, adding, it was dangerous to be pretty too because I kept on getting raped and molested everywhere I went. So it's kind of a protection thing, you know? You want people to like you or whatever, and you want to feel good about yourself. But if you getting raped and molested everywhere you go, I mean, Jesus, fuck. While my life isn't the same as her, she's gone through a lot of different things. I can relate. I can relate to J.C. Dugard. I can relate to Anne Frank, Frederick Douglass. Sinead O'Connor tried to take her life more than once, and she had lost her son to suicide in 2022 last year. Still, she remained open about all of it. I'm lucky, she said, because I enjoy my own company. Deliberately, I bought uncomfortable chairs because I don't like people staying at her house too long. I like being on my own. But she disclosed this with such an impish giggle that it sounded almost like an invitation. By the time Sinead O'Connor appeared on SNL in October 1992, She'd already been branded as insane. She'd already been branded as insane for boycotting the Grammy Awards, where she was up for the Record of the Year. They recognized only material gains, she said, and for refusing to play the Star Spangled Banner before her concerts. She said that the national anthem had nothing to do with music in general, but now her reputation felt permanently at permanent risk. I'm not sorry I did it, she said about ripping up the picture. She said it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. She isn't sorry that she did it. And how dare you even suggest that she be sorry that she did it. She said of her protest against the abuse in the Catholic Church, she actually came out before it hit the newspapers. She was the first one. She was a pioneer. But it was very traumatizing, she said, because it was open season on treating me like a crazy bitch. In the book, she details how her mother physically abused her throughout her childhood. I won the prize in kindergarten for being able to curl up into the smallest ball. But my teacher never knew why I could do that so well. There is a reason in the Nothing Compares to You video, Sinead O'Connor begins to cry when she hits the line about her mother's flowers. Again, she's got this complicated relationship, but I can understand. You're supposed to think that, oh, darling and nice and sweet and goodness. It's like women can use their looks to make it seem like they're as virtuous as the person, but maybe it's the man who's putting his virtue on her, and she's got no virtues except for just being pretty. Sinead O'Connor was 18 when her mother died, and on that day, she took down the one photograph on her mom's bedroom wall, the image of the Pope. Sinead O'Connor carefully saved the photo, waiting for the right moment to destroy it. She smoked marijuana. She liked to smoke marijuana, so she's fucking progressive as shit. What a badass progressive, gay, or seemingly, just different, just out of the box, not the most delicate, feminine woman out there. Good, strong, tough as nails woman. I like that Sinead O'Connor. And she was married 4 times, so she's not gay. She's just different. Just not a ball gown sort of Barbie, Marilyn Monroe, play your role, get in the house barefoot and pregnant, put the food on the table. Sinead O'Connor still shaves her head herself about every 10 days. I just don't feel like me when I have hair, she said. She usually wears a hijab over it now. She converted to Islam several years ago and started going by the name Shuhada Sadaqat, though she still answers to O'Connor. I don't know if that's a better jump. I guess it is actually, I would say progressive. It is a progressive jump going from Christianity to Islam, but it's all fucking religion and it's fucking bullshit. Islam recognizes Jesus Christ, but Christianity doesn't recognize Muhammad. So ultimately, you should have just rejected religion, Jesus Christ. I mean, if there's one person, she should have been Pope. Pope destroyed all the churches, all the Catholic churches in New Mexico. Threw out all the Spanish conquistadors. So Sinead O'Connor's just like Pope. She wrote the first part of her memoir in 2015. Then she had a hysterectomy and then a total breakdown after that. So she needed to finish the project. So she's got a book called Rememberings. And then she writes about different things. It's not chronological, but someone said she's just Sinead and she wears her heart on her sleeve. Frank Sinatra said that he'd kick her ass if she was a guy. Well, if she was a guy, I'd kick her at why? She ripped up that picture of the Pope. Is Frank Sinatra even Catholic? I even heard the atheist in the household was sitting there saying, even though I don't believe in God, that's too far. What's too far? Ripping up a picture of the Pope? That's so stupid. We're all supposed to pretend that everything's all hunky-dory. Nah, everything's all hunky-dory around here. No, we are appalled and disgusted and reprehensible behavior. I really feel the use of the word crazy or associated words as terms of abuse should become a crime punishable by imprisonment, she told People in 2012. We need to be compassionate and gentle towards those of our brothers and sisters who have been hurt and are wounded and fragile while also being strong and alive. We should not mock those who are brave enough to show their wounds. We should not mock those who are brave enough to show their wounds. She was born in a Roman Catholic family in Glenageary, County, Dublin, Dublin County. Her parents ended in divorce, and Sinead O'Connor was sent to live with her mother, who regularly abused her. And it was physical abuse perpetrated particularly in a sexual manner. Physical violence. She wasn't trying to have sex with me, but she spent a good time trying to destroy my reproductive system. It was psychological, too. It was a torture chamber, really. But I forgive my mother. She just wasn't well. She managed to run away at 13 to live with her father. Life was more stable there. But she acted out by shoplifting, skipping school, and she was sent to the Magdalene Asylum for unruly women for 18 months. I will never experience such panic and terror and agony over anything like I did at that place, she told Spin in 1990. So that's the Catholic institution. She's getting beat up by this Catholic, and then she goes to this Catholic institution where, you know, she's shoplifting and whatever, but for a year and a half, it's like, shut up, do this, do that, panic and terror and agony. Nothing compares to you. The music video gave an up-close look at Sinead O'Connor's deepest emotions as she coped with the death of her mother. She said that the song reminded her of her mother, which is interesting because it begins with, it's been 7 hours and 15 days since you took your love away. It sounds like she's saying goodbye to her husband or to her man. But if she's thinking of her mother at the time when she sang it, and that's the one version that the song reminded her of her mother, I made an emotional connection, which I wasn't expecting, and it didn't hit me when I was recording the song. It only kicked in when I was being filmed. So I was sitting there thinking about me mother and trying hard not to bawl my eyes out. In 1995, she found herself embroiled in a lengthy custody battle with John Waters, the father of her second child, daughter Rosen. She had previously had a son, Jake, with her first husband, John Reynolds, a music producer she married in 1987. Facing accusations that she was an unfit mother, she tried to take her own life in 1999. That was on my 33rd birthday after a session in court that day where it was suggested that for the rest of my life I would only see my daughter once a month. She said in 2005, I made a very serious suicide attempt and I did almost die. The singer had reportedly taken 20 Valium pills. So that has to be a hard hit. She's sitting there saying, fuck all this abuse that she went through. She still loves me mama, but she doesn't like the abuse. And now they're saying that she's not good enough. She's too abusive to raise her kid. And it was just devastating to her because it was like, shit, I went through the damn thing. So I was trying to, I remember this one guy, oh, he had a terrible last name, something like Frank Liar or something. But the point of it, he's going to kill himself. But when I think about the shit that I had to go through as a child, it was like, Jesus Christ, some people will sit there and take, you know, all the abuse in the world. And then I feel like the guy, God, what was his last name? Something like Jim Liars, Jim Fibbers, I don't know, something. That sucks. That's terrible. It was in Gallatin County. But he had just got into an argument with her. He didn't hit her, but he just felt so much pride about being a better kind of man that when he hit her once or something, or smacked her once, but he didn't beat her, wasn't abusing her. So he fucked up, and he fucked up once, and I'm not trying to say, but some people get hit fucking dozens of times and never leave. And some of them watch their kids get hit dozens and dozens of times and don't say anything about it at all. So while nothing overtly sexual, there's no penetration. My body wasn't used to get anybody off. There's a couple small things, but hitting a kid's butt cheeks over and over again, hitting their butt cheeks and being sadistic, humiliating them again, and then going into the other room and sucking each other's assholes, there is something very disgusting about it. And there is a sexual element to it. Hitting a kid's butt cheeks and then humiliating them, attacking them sadistically. So there is these homophobic right-wing fascists. They want to pretend like the pro-homosexuals or the homosexuals are actually the perverts, but look at themselves. Look at Mike Foley. Look at Dennis Hassert. Look at that fucking Donald. Look at the Catholic Church. Donald that raped a 20-year-old. $5 million he had to pay for raping that 20-year-old. And he was accused of much more, over 20 other accusations, including raping a 13-year-old. Hitler was a Catholic, or approved by the Catholic Church. Fucking Hitler. Goddamn right-wing sons of bitches, these Nazis, with his niece. Hitler had a very too close, inappropriate, intimate relationship with his niece. His niece is going to blow her brains out. Blow her fucking brains out. Or she was shot with Hitler's gun. We're supposed to pretend that it wasn't a murder, it was a suicide. That's what the party wanted you to believe. So even though there wasn't anything overtly sexual, there was two things. I go to Kathy's house, and one of the cousins, I got molested by one of the cousins at Kathy's house, and Barbara Williams would drive me off. I'm like 8, 9, 10 years old. She would drive me off after I took a shower. She would come into the bathroom, and she pretended like she just didn't want water to get on the floor and shit. So, but overall, I would say it was mostly just terrorism and physical abuse that had the hint of sexuality. Sexuality was around, and it was all gross and disgusting. It's all abuse. Sexual assault, assault. What the fuck is the difference? Don't assault people. Don't physically, don't sexually assault people. Keep your goddamn hands to your fucking selves. I still feel a strong connection with the oppression of Sinead O'Connor, Frederick Douglass, and Frank J.C. Dugard. J.C. Dugard got raped in the backyard for 10-something years. Now, you can never predict what might trigger the PTSD. I describe myself as a rescue dog. I'm fine until you put me in a situation that even slightly smells like any of the trauma I went through. Then I flip my lid, O'Connor said. I manage very well because I've been taught brilliant skills. A lot of therapy. It's about focusing on the things that bring you peace as opposed to what makes you feel unstable.